So in this video, I'm going to explain how to use React Router. I did film a previous version that would show you a little bit more about the different aspects as far as React Router. However, go ahead and go to the web button. It is React Router version 4. The URL for React Router 4 would be reacttraining.com/react-router/. Make sure that you click on the web link. Here it gives you several different examples. In the examples, it'll give you basics, URL, matching, sidebars, and things like galleries. However, if you were to look at the documentation, it could be quite confusing. How can I actually get this to work in my application? First, what I'm going to do is show you some of the basics. You will see it placed into my document, and it looks pretty much like it does on the screen here. I already have my download for my Create app. I just went ahead and placed it in my folder here. I'm going to open up my terminal, redirect it to that actual folder, and do an npm start. And then you can see that I click on here and it's going to change the actual links of the web page. Now, once again, this has a black background because it needs to be changed within the settings so that it will have a white background. However, you do see that the links do work. When I click in the URL, it does change per link. We have our normal setup. We have the source file. In the source file, I have the app.js, the index, and none of that has actually changed at all. Let's look at the app.js. What we do need to add, though, is this import browser router. It's going to include the route, and it's also going to include the link, and we're pulling that from React Router DOM. And what we're going to do is place it, what I did is a copy and paste into my window. And then I went ahead and exported it at the end. However, if you were to really use this in a website, you're probably not going to use it this way. You're going to want to break them up more into components. With that being said, you would use certain aspects like the routes. Here you could see that we're going to use the route and make it go to an exact path. And then we're going to give it the component name. For example, home, about, and topics. And then we're going to always make sure that include that import into the top of our document. But first we need to install React Router into our file that we're currently working on. Okay, in my terminal, this is going to be my new folder here that I'm going to place all my files into. So the first thing I'm going to do is I would go to the React website, download the React app. So I would do a copy of this. And then in my terminal window, I would go ahead and paste that. Then whatever my folder name is going to be. So mine would be O2 React Router. And what that does is that creates your React app within there, and it will install all your node modules and everything that you need. I went ahead, my folder is already created, so you don't need to do that part. Once your folder is created, you will need to install React Router. In order to do that, we need to go to the actual home page. So in order to install React Router, go ahead and go to the top where it says npm. Click on that link, and you're going to go ahead and run this within your terminal window. So copy that. I'm going to change my directory so that I am in the correct folder. And then I would do a npm install -- save React Router. You can see that it's actually installing as we speak. On the documentation page, you'll see what you can add as far as the router goes. But what I would do is just go back to the page itself that the router documentation is on. Web, and then in the basics. And this will show you the main things apart as far as the router goes. You will look into router objects, location, history. For instance, if you want to save it for the browser, you might want to use some sort of history to save it into the local cache. Now that that's installed, you should see everything is ran fine. I have no more errors, and React Router has been installed. So basically what it does is it just installs a folder in your node modules file. And that will go ahead and include anything that you need to have working for the router itself. In my source file, you can go ahead and create 2 new folders, actually 3. I created a folder for my pages, a folder for my components, and a folder for my images. Any images that I use for my application will go into that file. All components for my application will go into the components folder. For example, if they're pieces of the main page, they would be a part or a component. For example, footer, header, main, and nav. For the actual pages themselves, I'm going to have 3 pages. I just went ahead and named them 1, 2, and 3 for the purposes of this tutorial. But you can name them whatever you want. Now that you have all of the files set up, let's go ahead and see how we change that router to actually work for our program. Let's go into the source. Everything is the same. You're going to always have your public, which is the index.html. Then it's always going to go to the index.js and then your application itself. Here, the first line is going to be import React component from React, same as always. To import our header, main, and footer, I always do an import, whatever that component name is, from and then that folder, which is coming from the components folder. So in here I have my header, my footer, and my main. The next part that we're going to have to include into our file is the import React router. We're going to need to include browser router, route, and link. And it's going to need to say from React router DOM. Then we go into our main class. In our main class, we're going to have the router element tag wrapped around our main components of our page. So in here I have a router, then I have the main div, I have my header, my main, and my footer, and then I close my router. So that's going to look for those components and point me to that direction. Let me go ahead and show you my pages. They're pretty simple. I have page 1, and then I have a link and a section tag. Same thing with page 2. Same thing with page 3. So it's going to be a basic page. I'm going to go ahead and do npm start so that you can see what my file looks like. And if I were to click on my link 1, my link 2, my link 3, you could see that the pages actually do change. And I have some icons down here at the bottom as a navigation as well, so that they can change whenever I want them to change to the appropriate page. Let you take a look at my components themselves. So for the navigation, I need to include the nav link from React Router. That's going to make my nav links work as a navigation link. I'm going to give that class the name of nav. That way that's going to be my navigation bar. My header and footer include all of my icons. I'm also using the nav link on the footer as well to display the icons as links. In the main, which is my main element or my main page, I once again am including the browser router below the component. I'm going to import page 1, 2, and 3 from the appropriate file. I'm going to call my class main, and inside the main I'm going to tell it which view to display or which component to inject into that page. So route exact path, page 1, page 2, and page 3, and these actually match the component names themselves. And then I close up the main. So these components are the main pieces. I have my footer, my header, my main, which is all my views, where my views go into. For example, link 1, this is my view. Link 2, view 2, and page 3. And that is React Router.